Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth. This program features in-depth conversations with the leading names in the subjects of UFOs, abductees, the paranormal, panel discussions, and the very best and brightest of the next generation of writers and researchers. Meanwhile Here on Earth, the show breaking new ground in alternative talk with your intrepid host, veteran investigative writer and researcher, Peter Robbins.
Thank you, Mr. Race Hobbs, and good evening to you all, or afternoon or morning. And welcome back to Meanwhile Here on Earth on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. If you're listening to the show but would rather be watching it, just go to YouTube and enter KGRA, then Meanwhile Here on Earth. You can also watch it on the KGRA's Facebook page. If you become a KGRA member, a subscriber member, you will immediately be able to access every program in their huge archive of shows on UFOs and the paranormal. And as some of you know, I sometimes yammer on for a few minutes at the beginning and give some kind of monologue, but I don't want to waste a minute and want to get right to tonight's guest. Linda Zimmermann is a research scientist turned award-winning author of more than 30 books, has appeared on numerous TV and radio shows, and hosts 3 separate podcasts. Linda grew up in the small town of Pearl River, New York, rural enough to still have farms, but close enough to New York City to have adventures. She's the youngest of 4 with 2 brothers and a sister. Summer vacations meant long days in the pool, science projects, and fascinating nights exploring the sky with her ticket to the universe, her rickety Sears refracting telescope. Despite her mother's desperately trying to get her to, quote, act more like a lady, end quote, Linda was never happier than when she was hitting a baseball, throwing a football, or digging a big hole looking for fossils or the remains of an ancient civilization. Linda left home at 19 and put herself through college on scholarships and working in the quality control labs of Fisher Diagnostics. She completed a dual major in natural science and English literature, with particular interest in chemistry and Chaucer. After graduating, she continued working at Fisher in both hematology and chemistry research and development. By agreeing to write articles for the Fisher newsletter, she managed to get the company to pay for her master's in English literature. Way to go, Linda. She also wrote a very popular satirical newspaper about the company called the Narwhal Gazette, which almost got her fired. Given the choice of only writing company-approved stories or ceasing publication, the long-running Gazette sadly came to an end. When the company was sold, the research and development department was closed. And at a career crossroads, Linda decided not to return to her science job, but to give writing a try. Quickly learning the meaning of starving artist, she nonetheless persevered until she actually started making a living writing and discovered she loved lecturing just as much. Having absolutely no plans about writing about the paranormal, she somehow found herself with a 25-year career as the ghost investigator. Her ghost books include America's Historic Haunts and 13 volumes of the Ghost Investigator series of books highlighting her best cases. Linda has appeared on television shows such as Dead Files, Creepy Canada, America's Most Haunted, Paranormal Survivor, and Hotel Paranormal. Her area of interest is personally experiencing haunted locations through investigations. Other topics for her writing and lectures are the Civil War, astronomy, and her beloved trilogy of horror, Hudson Valley Zombie Apocalypse. Linda is particularly proud of winning the Silver Medal for humor in the Independent Publishers Award for her irreverent look at the history of science, bad science, a brief history of bizarre misconceptions, totally wrong conclusions, and incredibly stupid theories. My favorite among her titles. She has also appeared on one season of NASA's Unexplained Files and 2 seasons of Strange Evidence. Over the years, many people would come to her after her lectures and tell her about their UFO stories. Having had her own experiences in 1979 and 1988, she realized this was important information that needed to be brought to the public. Linda starred in the documentary In the Night Sky, I Recall a UFO, which was based on her research into sightings in the Hudson Valley of New York. The film won the 2013 People's Choice Award at the International UFO Congress Film Festival, and her 4 UFO books are In the Night Sky, Hudson Valley UFOs, More Hudson Valley UFOs, and Animal Reactions to UFOs. Very important title. She will be appearing in a new UFO show in the fall of this year. Another passion is the controversial stone sites in the Northeast, which she has found to have astronomical alignments and are what Linda believed to be Native American calendar and ceremonial sites. She has briefly hiked many miles with her husband and best friend. She has happily, not briefly, hiked many miles with Bob to view magnificent solstice and equinox sunrises and sunsets at these mysterious and intriguing sites. In addition to everything else, she now hosts 3 podcasts: UFO Headquarters, Murder in the Hudson Valley, and the sci-fi spoof Science Friction Theater on Hudson River Radio. She was named Best Radio Personality in the Hudson Valley in 2020, and with good reason, and Best Author several times. Linda still loves sports, the outdoors, opera, baking, and traveling, if she could, and we will again. She would build a house in her happy place, the turquoise waters of the Caribbean. Got to Zim, which is GOTOZIM, is her website, and Hudson River Radio takes you to her podcasts. Linda Zimmermann, welcome to Meanwhile here on Earth.
Thank you. I am so delighted to be here.
I have been looking forward to spending this time with you on the air for a long time, in part because aside from certain similarities in our childhood and passions, your accomplishments as a scientist and an investigator and an author, you still have the ability to never take yourself too seriously, which is, I think, one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves.
Thank you. Yes, it's very difficult for me to be serious for any length of time, as you've noticed.
As you know, the show, one of its conceits is that we're primarily a biographical show, my thought being the people that we know and respect, or think we know and do respect, in the worlds of UFO and paranormal. We really don't know how they became the people they are. And that's been a point of curiosity for me since I was a kid. And the photos that you're generously sharing with us tonight, as going through them, one of my first conclusions were, as a child, you were a character with capital letters and wiggly lines coming off of it.
I was either my first or second grade teacher. When they would send home the report cards, there would be a letter, and my mother's reading it. Your daughter is quite the nonconformist. And I didn't know what that meant. And I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? She didn't answer. She just shook her head.
The other thing is, some people will, want to begin with a picture of the house they grew up in or their family, and occasionally something about their heritage or lineage or, family history. A couple of months ago, when Marla Fries was a guest on the show, we began with a beautiful portrait of Ulysses S. Grant, because that was a ancestor of hers. Oh. The very first picture you supply us with is a most intriguing one. Can you tell us about this photo?
Yes, I would be delighted. As I said, I was always, thought of as being a little different, and I didn't quite know where that came from. And in recent years, I've been doing a lot of genealogy, and I came across, this is my great aunt Doll. Her name was Bertha Tate. And in the 1890s in Boston, which is about as conservative a time in a conservative place as you can get, she put on leotards and performed in the circus. And I just found this out. You wouldn't show your ankles on a Boston street in 1890. And this is the way she was. And look, just loving it. And I come to find out, I spoke to an aunt of mine a year or two ago, and she was known as Unusual Aunt Doll. Not only did she join the circus, she was competent enough where she came to own her own circus and traveled across the country managing and running her own circus. So I saw this picture with delight and relief. And Aunt Doll, thank you for the genes you imparted to me. And here is Aunt Doll, some trick photograph as a woman and as a man. Again, who did this in Boston? Right? And this is brilliant.
It is at the heart of contemporary society as well right now. Beyond scandalous. I had a great Aunt Jean who was famous for leaving the family, in a sense, and moving to Greenwich Village and living with a man who was referred to as the king of the hobos. And my delicate sensibilities cannot handle, but this is hysterical. Way to go. Great Aunt
Doll. Yes. And I just discovered this, I'd say 3 years or so ago, and absolutely thrilled.
Wow.
Absolutely thrilled.
Talk about chutzpah. This woman really was able to thumb her nose at society and rankle the masses, no doubt.
Yes, explains a lot. But it wasn't only on my mother's side of the family.
Oh, no, a double tragedy.
Just last year, I was searching my father's side of the family. And I can get in this a little bit more, but Mrs. Neureuter was my grandmother's adopted mother. It was actually her aunt. A bit of a story there. But this was from the Brooklyn Daily Eagle. I think the date on it was 1893. And long story short, Otto Uberkampt was her brother-in-law, married to her sister. Her sister had enough of Otto and left. And Otto is in a local bar trash talking Mrs. Neureuter, whose nickname was Minnie. She was very short, but built like a Panzer tank. And the husband, Mr. Neureuter, is listening to Otto trash his husband in public.
Oh, no.
Doesn't say a word, doesn't do anything, runs home and tells Minnie, Otto's down in the, street. He's saying a lot of bad things about you. Well, what did you do? Well, nothing. Well, the article says she didn't even stop to put on her hat, which, what woman, right?
In the 90s? Oh, my.
She grabs a big, heavy stick. She goes marching down the street. They said a crowd was following her. Uh-oh, Minnie's on the warpath. She sees Otto and his friends, doesn't wait for a word, starts, I think the term was belaboring him in his shins, on his knuckles. He's screaming in pain. Anybody who tried to stop, she was whacking them away while the husband stood and watched his wife punishing this man. A cop comes, takes them both to the station, and they had to apologize to one another or get thrown in the slammer. And this to me was, I sent this to all my friends and they said, now we understand more. I mean, again, in this time period, a woman taking matters into her own hands and going after this guy without hesitation and getting an apology from him at the end of beating him with a stick.
And having to apologize is not a bad price to pay for having beat the hell out of him.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
And you better believe she commanded a lot of respect after that. From what I've been able to see in the newspapers, she became a very affluent landlord, giving out mortgages herself. They ran a bakery, and she went from a bakery to this big landlord because nobody messed with Minnie and her stick.
No, and the Brooklyn Eagle was the biggest newspaper in Brooklyn at the time. I can tell you that as a amateur but passionate New York City historian. And everybody in Brooklyn knew this overnight, which meant she was famous in Brooklyn.
Yes.
And therein she was able to, I guess, build her real estate empire. Well, remind me to stay on the right side of you as our friendship continues on into the future. And now we introduce our audience to the young Linda Zimmermann.
There I am in all my bare-butted glory. You see the happy smile face.
Yeah. Race, are we allowed to show nude photos on the show here?
I think for Linda, we'll make an exception.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not going to linger on it, though. Continuing along. See what I mean?
This is me so much. Here's the three major things you learn from this. I hate sitting in chairs. I'm sitting cross-legged now.
Okay.
I never like sitting in chairs. I would always find some way to contort but I'm in my pajamas. I could live in pajamas all day long, and I'm reading a book. I absolutely loved my books. You can easily see me like I don't have a hassock like this to curl up in, but you can easily find me today on a couch with my legs up over the armrests, in my pajamas reading a book. Some things just don't change.
So aside from the plague on humanity that the pandemic has brought us, it's been a pretty good time for you with pajamas and books. And
yes, it has. Right in my wheelhouse.
We all start reading at different times and at different rates. How old were you when you really started to read?
I think it was around the first grade that I really was seriously reading. I remember I have all of my old report cards, and it was saying, it would say how Linda is already, reading books and things like that. And I really delved into them. And then I remember in middle school, I discovered my box of my father's books from college in the attic. Ooh. And, we did not have the internet. The books were our world. Yeah. So I was a voracious reader. This explains my fascination for bright, shiny objects. I always say, I cannot have a Christmas tree without tinsel on it today. That is me. I would sit there for hours, and I still have the lights that were on that tree, and they still work.
How wonderful. And they were made in America.
Yes, you know it.
How wonderful. Here's another classic.
Yes, my dad. This shows my love-hate relationship with the ocean. I absolutely love it, but you can see I fear it just a bit. I remember he would hold me tight in the waves and I'd be screaming, "Don't let me go, don't let me go." But I just love, as soon as we'd get out, "Oh no, bring me back in." So, yes, my rather ill-fitting diapers there, but just loved the beach and still do. That is my happy place.
And a very fetching bonnet, I might add.
Oh, loved those bonnets. Oh my God.
Generally I ask guests to number photographs in chronological order. for logical reasons, and every once in a while they don't. And it's almost always with a really good reason. And the next two are a perfect example for me, uh, especially so. Um, this wonderful picture of you and your dad, I just fell in love with when I saw it. You know, it doesn't need any caption. It's just two people radiating amazing love at each other. And if you're lucky, you have a picture of yourself like this with a parent. But going back some years before this, we see your father in a very different incarnation.
Yes, I knew him as that loving, joking, hugging guy, and knew he was in the Marines. But back then, everybody's father, was in the military,
Yeah.
and you didn't ask the questions about it that you should, and he didn't really talk that much about it. And it wasn't until years later that I requested his military records after he passed, and he had a collection of books about World War II, all the places he went. And when I read and finally understood what this young guy went through, went halfway around the world and was Guadalcanal, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, almost killed by a kamikaze and refused to be sent home. They were a different breed of people back then.
Yeah. Well, you've said it all.
What a picture of joy and innocence. Here I am. I love to bake. To me, it was like alchemy. You'd have this amorphous blob of dough or batter, and you'd suddenly get these fabulous cookies or cakes out of it. Yeah. So something I still love to do today.
Was your mom a homemaker, as we used to say, or did she work out? Well, she had 4 kids, so I'm guessing in this time and era that she started out like my mom, as a full-time mom.
She started out as a full-time mom, but by the time I was in kindergarten, I was the youngest. The eldest were, 8 years old, 7, 8 years older. So she started working. She had a number of jobs. So I used to, I can't imagine today. I used to wear the house key around my neck on a cord. And when kindergarten was over, I would walk home and let myself in the house and wait for my brothers and sister to come home. And, we were very self-reliant. And fortunately, we didn't have to worry about horrible things happening for the most part.
Yeah. For me, my mother's mother in Queens, who was a Russian immigrant, she cooked everything from scratch. And some of my happiest memories of childhood were on a step stool watching her make food. And I kind of fell in love with the process through her. And at the same time, we'd be listening to WNEW and William B. Williams' Make Believe Ballroom and things.
Yes.
My Russian grandmother was the person who introduced me to the world of Black culture. And they're wired up for me. But to this day, I love to cook. And, I've never been much of a baker, but probably because of just early conditioning. When you started to read in earnest and in adolescence, what were the kind of books that you gravitated toward?
History, absolutely history, and English literature. I remember in the 3rd grade, I was reading the history of the Roman Empire. I took the book out several times because I was just fascinated by it. And then when I found my father's history, world history books, history, and as I said, literature, I was just swept away by all of that.
How wonderful that, it wasn't the Classics Illustrated or the children's version of the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. You went right for it.
Well, it might have been a step down version. I don't know. But I just, to me, everything springs from history. Yeah. You learn about the culture, the time. You're obviously going to learn about the science and the arts and society. History just gives you everything about a time and place.
Now, the next photo, I'll let it speak for itself.
Well, my love of baking has taken a bit of a twist and turn here. This is Sparky, the condemned gingerbread man. And I had this idea, and my husband made the little electric chair for him, and I made
That's
Sparky
lovely.
in his little black and white prison outfit, and you can see the expression on his face as the lethal current shoots through his little gingerbread body.
And he's not going anywhere. He is clamped in there. And I love that this is slipped into the childhood section of our viewing here.
Well, I kind of juxtaposed it to the little innocent girl making chocolate chip cookies, and my love of baking is still with me, but it's taken a more adult turn.
Yeah. Does the term arrested development ring a bell for you? Off camera, I was telling you, I have a friend who is a private person, a well-known actress, but she would describe to me the elaborate ceremonies she created when she would create funerals for her dolls in the grounds on Connecticut where she grew up, and how less than thrilled her mother was at the time. But this is wonderful. This really is a very special, and I use the word special advisedly. Okay.
Back to the innocence. We had an above ground pool, which was the center of my universe, during summer. And here I am with those horrible bathing caps that we had to clamp on our heads. But that's my brother Jim next to me, my dad, of course, my sister Nancy, and my brother Walter. And, it was, looking back, it was a tiny backyard. But we had a pool, we had we had enough room to run around, and very happy memories there.
Now, your mother every once in a while did get you into a dress, apparently.
Oh my God, yes. Holidays and look at the look of ecstasy on my face. Am I just the happiest camper you've ever seen?
No, you're not.
No, I am not.
And your hair is nicely in place with a barrette, I'm sure, on the other side as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Those always were so comfortable, jammed into my scalp. And then there, of course, if we were going out, I had to have the white gloves. And if it was cold, those horrible tights. And then the Easter bonnets with the rubber, the elastic cord that would cut into your neck. And you'd have to be standing there smiling. Oh, my God, I hated it. It wasn't me.
I can only take your word for it. However, I think there must have been some kind of concession. I don't remember either of my sisters having dresses with pockets.
My mother was a very good seamstress. She made all of our clothes. I guess a lot of mothers made clothes. And I used to make all of my clothes when I, was a young adult. But yes, I will give her that. She was very good at that. And so I could jam my fisted hands in my and try to hide my horror at getting dressed.
Now, we need to know about this. It looks like you are in love with the fact that you have gotten not a doll, but a monster truck.
Yes, the Tough Boy truck. You can see now I am happy. This truck was, it's huge, and it was battery operated, and you could start, and I would put the cat in the bed of the truck, and I would drive it all around the house. Yeah. Dolls were not my thing. Right. In fact, it's become legend in my family now how my brother and I took all the heads off of my dolls and made a mobile.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Well, you're obviously a child who never needed to go to a therapist as an adult.
No.
You worked it all out as you went along.
I did. Hey.
It's a shame you didn't save this toy. I'm guessing it disappeared into the ozone.
It did.
Like all of my wonderful childhood toys. But the fact that, now, of course, you could not bring out a toy like that without at least calling it the Tough Child truck.
Excellent point.
And that didn't leave a mark on you at all. And in the background, of course, is the beloved piece of furniture that a lot of our dreams came from at the time. Did you have favorite television shows growing up, Linda?
I loved, the sitcoms of the time, but what I really loved were the old movies.
Yeah.
I fell in love with movies from the 30s and early 40s.
You sure are a sister after my own heart.
Yeah, it's just, there was just something about them, the storytelling in them.
Yes.
Just loved them. And of course, Bugs Bunny cartoons, the cartoons and things. I did watch some kids programming. But yeah, I watched a lot of TV. It was, the thing you did.
Exactly. And were there any shows that you remember that the family watched together? For us, it was Ed Sullivan, The Twilight Zone, a few others in that ilk, but they were part of, family life. Now, of course, the world of the screen is, we're in a different dimension and a different time.
Yeah, I have very happy memories of the entire family getting together. I believe it was Sunday afternoon for Wide World of Sports. And we'd have some sort of, I remember, especially in the winter, my mother would take the leftover turkey from Thanksgiving or Christmas and make these sandwiches and freeze them, wrap them up in aluminum foil.
Brilliant.
So just as Wide World of Sports was starting, she'd put them in the oven. We'd sit down and you'd smell the turkey sandwich, hot turkey sandwich cooking. And we'd all, what was that? The agony of defeat. Remember and it was just, that is, I'm glad you brought that up. I had not thought of that in years.
I don't remember because it's part of the tragedy that I live with, but essentially I was a boy born without the sports gene. I know, okay. I know.
I'm pretty much married to one, believe it or not.
Well, then it's a very strong marriage, I'm sure. I played, all the sports that we kids did, and I went to 2 baseball games in my life. As a very little child, I was taken to Ebbets Field twice and saw the Brooklyn Dodgers play. I still like soccer, and occasionally younger friends will drag me to a bar when you could do such things for what is the giant event that happens at the end of the football year, the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl.
Yes. I will enjoy the camaraderie and observe the dynamics of how males relate to each other in these situations. But give me a museum or a movie or a walk through New York City anytime. But wonderful. Now, here's my favorite photo, except for maybe Sparky, but this one says it all.
The eye of the tiger. This is me happy. I am still wearing gray hooded sweatshirts and baseball caps.
Yeah, baby.
This I just and thank God for my dad who didn't care that I was a girl. I wanted to play sports, and he would pitch the ball to me and, I would hit it as hard as I could. And I remember when we were playing, tossing the football, I'd throw the football and he'd say, "Oh, you're just like Y.A. Tittle." And I had no idea who that was. But if my dad says I was just like that, I thought, he was a New York Giants quarterback. And he didn't have, he wasn't like my mother, be more like a lady. He said he thought it was great. You want to do that? Just go and do it. So that I have had a lifelong love of playing baseball and watching baseball.
Yeah. You, I'm sure, visited the Baseball Hall of Fame here in New York State, Cooperstown.
Yes.
I'm sure they know you when you walk in.
Hey, Linda, good to see you again. Yeah. It's actually been a few years, but I do need to get back. Yes.
Now, although your love of literature kind of grew out of English literature, which is wonderful, you grew up in a part of the country that a lot of people outside of our region are not really aware of. The Hudson Valley is steeped in history, and it goes back well before the American Revolution, with the early Dutch settlers who were the first Europeans to
Right.
really develop the place. Coming out of that, we have a rich history of early American literature, and especially works by America's first actual best-selling author, Washington Irving, who's best known to a lot of people for The Legend of Sleepy Hollow,
Mhm.
uh, for good or for bad, more in the movie version than the book versions that we
Yes.
grew up enjoying. Did you pick up on that as a kid?
To some degree, because, we knew the homes of these people were in the area and the locals, and they would touch upon it in school. And
Mm.
yeah, you couldn't help but driving through the Hudson Valley, see the old homes. There were a lot more of the old Dutch sandstone
Yeah.
homes then, and the artwork, the Hudson River School of Art.
Yeah.
You had so much richness in the cultures, like you say, the Dutch, then the English, and then everybody else. There was just so much to draw on culturally in this area.
I expect that you grew up with an appreciation for the Headless Horseman.
Yes, what child wasn't terrified of that?
Absolutely. And wonderfully brought to life by the eternally great Christopher Walken in
Mhm.
that brilliant, brilliant film. Can you, I'm jumping ahead here, but because it relates to the Hudson Valley, can you tell us a bit about your trilogy? Hudson Valley Zombie Apocalypse, words that literally trip off the tongue. And I know it's something that must be a thrill and a point of great pride for residents of the Hudson Valley.
There's nothing like having an apocalypse in your own backyard. So that came about when I was a little kid. I remember, I was watching all these movies, loved the sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
And when Night of the Living Dead came to the
Ooh.
TV screen, I was terrified by it. It made such an impression. And I thought, what is more horrifying than your loved ones dying and coming back to get you? It made a
And
huge
eat you,
impression.
possibly.
And
Yes.
eat you. And then we had some good movies, and then for decades, the genre just went ridiculous.
Yeah.
I couldn't even watch zombie movies anymore. And then when Walking Dead came
The
to
zombie
screen,
renaissance began.
yes, I was like, this is why I liked the zombie movies. It's the story of people in this, how they react to these horrible conditions. The good and the bad of people come out. So I was with some friends one day and we're talking about this, and I joked and I said, it's about time the Hudson Valley has its own zombie apocalypse. The cartoon light bulb, is that go? And as I loved telling a story, and I knew the Hudson Valley, and I loved, the horror genre, I wrote the first one, got such great feedback. I wrote the second, and then I had to complete the trilogy. And the heroine is a woman who's studying to be a doctor when it all goes down, and she has to use her brains to try to combat the zombie agent, but she also has to learn to shoot and fight and run around. And so I actually went up to New Hampshire to a place called Machine Gun Safari, where you hand somebody a lot of money and they open the back of their pickup truck and hand you a Thompson submachine gun, an Uzi, and all of these other automatic weapons, because when I write about something, I want to know about it.
Yeah.
I'd fired pistols and shotguns, but you don't run around New York State with automatic weapons.
No, they frown on that.
Yes. So that's the degree. And I did an enormous amount of research onto what my zombie agent was, what was causing this. There's like some real science behind it. And mine don't, they don't keep going and going. You shoot them, they fall down, so.
Well, we learned that in the great television series, Headshots especially.
Yes, they're always good. They're always
Once again, I feel connected to you. I've never shot a machine gun, but I went up to New Hampshire a number of times to study at a charming facility called the Lethal Force Institute, which was run by one of the nation's experts on handguns, a police officer then retired named Masad Ehub, who trained people to use their firearms properly, and graduated when I was a very active handgun enthusiast, but have never shot a zombie, now that I think about it. But
well,
I
I
am prepared
haven't only in my dreams, but and
gonna
on
say,
paper.
was the doctor who is the lead character in this trilogy a female or a male?
She was a female
So
because yes.
with scientific background. And
Yes.
okay, nothing too autobiographical there, but a nice projection.
I deny it. Well, you're supposed to write what you know.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I am much more comfortable writing from the female perspective in this case.
Good point. Even though you had the monster boy truck.
Yes, I did.
Obviously, no gender confusion. It's just terrific that you are a strong personality from the get-go. And
back to baseball. Here I am.
Here you are as a child again.
Yeah, that's what I felt like. This is down in Florida. This is right before COVID struck. I was at this spring training game down in Florida, and yes, within days they shut the stadium down, and we drove like heck to get back home because we heard all hell was breaking loose. But I mean, there I am. I mean, the joy of a little kid just has never left me. I absolutely refuse to grow up.
The fact is we don't have to, as long as we pay our bills and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And occasionally, stand up and make believe we are what we laughingly used to call grown-ups, and then find ourselves in the place of, but have to pass because we know who lives inside.
Exactly.
Now, this is a great shot, Linda. Oh, man.
I never, unfortunately, got to be on the field at Shea Stadium, which they have knocked down and then built Citi Field. But a few years ago, they started giving tours of Citi Field, and here they let us onto the field. We couldn't step out into the grass in the center, but I was on the field, and a 50-year dream come true.
Were you a Mets fan from the time that the Mets were created? I think in part to take up some of the oxygen that had been sucked out of New York with the loss of the Dodgers and the Giants.
Absolutely. My father was a huge Brooklyn Dodger fan. And so the Mets were where the Brooklyn Dodger fans, that was their refuge. In my household, I considered Casey Stengel a crazy old uncle, even though we never met him. I saw him on TV, more than my own relatives. So, I was with the Mets from the very beginning.
Yeah, their colors, for me, are most reminiscent of the World's Fair out at Flushing Meadows when we were kids. Did you get to visit there?
No, we didn't. We did not do much when I was a kid.
Now, another iconic baseball photo. Tell us about this.
Well, when they were building Citi Field, if you wrote them a nice check, you could get a brick with something. And I don't know if people can see that, but it says, "Gotta Believe," and then my name, Linda Zimmermann. And of course, "Gotta Believe," the great Tug McGraw reliever, that was the rally cry, you gotta believe. And so I am hopefully forever part of the Mets stadium there.
I would say this is yet one more aspect of your many tickets to immortality. Also, the fact that, as I remarked earlier, we catch you working away in the great library in Prague, don't we?
That's it. That's where I am sitting right now. So
don't rustle the screen, whatever you do.
No, don't. I don't want a breeze to
break the illusion.
Right.
In terms of your deep love for this innately American sport, is there something else in your DNA or background or family history that has kept you a baseball fan and such a passionate one for your whole life?
Yes, I think that is the perfect segue for this photo. I loved when you contacted me. Did you put this in the right place? So I have this passionate, all-consuming love of baseball, and to be sad for one moment. Years ago, I had been given a very serious, life-threatening diagnosis, and when I got that, my first thought was, oh, I really wanted to have them see the Mets win the World Series again and see the men walk on the moon. Those were my, honest to God, those were my two thoughts.
You got this diagnosis when you were really young.
No, about a dozen or so years ago, but I survived, obviously. So in my research of genealogy, I came upon this man in my great grandfather, Matthew McDougall Tate.
Great.
Let me see how many greats. He's
Three
pretty
greats,
great. I
Okay,
can't
keep
remember.
going.
He was born in 1819.
I'd say that could be three greats.
Probably three greats.
I hope so.
Shediac, New Brunswick, Canada. His family came from Scotland. He was a lumberjack and a farmer in this little Canadian town, but later in life moved to Boston. And in 1915, at the age of 96, the Boston Red Sox were headed for the World Series, and he was known as the oldest Red Sox fan alive.
Whoa.
So the local paper, the Boston paper, went to interview him and said, you've lived a full life. Is there anything else you want? And honest to God, he said, I just want to live long enough to see the Boston Red Sox win another World Series. I read that up and the hair stood up on the back of my neck. And the Phillies lost to the Red Sox in the World Series. He saw it, and 2 months later, he passed away.
Oh, my gosh.
So there he is. You wouldn't think he's a rabid baseball fan there, but there. So again, DNA, you can't escape it sometimes.
And never judge anyone by their appearance. You do not know who lives behind those eyes or what they've seen or been through, or in this case, the team they've rooted for.
Exactly.
Man. We're moving forward in your life now.
There we are. So there I am, just getting back from the bowling awards dinner. I made that dress, by the way.
Looks great.
I not only love to watch sports, I love to compete. Love bowling, softball, tennis, racquetball was big back then. You name the sport, and I loved playing it. And here I am with my haul of trophies that I got that night. I thrive on competition, and I love I won a horseshoe pitching tournament, and it was down to the last shoe. If I didn't get a ringer, I was going to lose. If I got the ringer, I'd win. Clang, ringer. I mean, I love those pressure situations of competition. And obviously I still remember that, it was probably 35 years ago, but I love the sports competition.
Linda, are all of these trophies bowling trophies?
Yeah, that's the ones I got for that one night. That was for the season.
You have a wing of your estate dedicated to glass cases filled with trophies?
I have a good selection of trophies. Like I said, horseshoes, racquetball, softball. So yes.
This painting. Tell me about this painting.
Most people have no clue how much I love to paint, and I usually don't talk about it, but this is my favorite painting I have created. I become a crazy person when I paint. The smell of the linseed oil, I don't know. You know, you are, the professional painter. I'm an amateur, but to me, it is the most engaging thing I do. I love creating, but painting to me trumps all others. And I hope in coming years I'll have time to get back to it. But I will hunch over a painting like this with a quadruple zero brush, getting every detail and hardly sleeping, talk about being in my pajamas all day. I just love painting, seeing it, doing it. That's why I loved my trips to the Metropolitan Museum, the museums in Paris and London. Fine art is just sublime.
I love that for you. It's simply understood when you talk about painting, you're talking about oil painting. And that is an entirely different thing than most people, many of them very passionate about their work, do with more modern compounds like acrylic paints. Do you have any favorite painters that you grew up with, or, that when you think of your pantheon of either classic or modern painters that are your go-to people?
I can tell you the moment I fell in love with Jean-Auguste Dominique Ong. It was at the Metropolitan Museum, and there is a rotunda there. And I remember I was in high school, and I come into this rotunda, and on the other side of the rotunda was this portrait of the Princess de Broglie in this incredible blue satin gown. And I took one look at and it was like this fireworks went off in my head. The switch went off. It was just something cosmic. And I was like, how do I was ready to leap over the rotunda. I had to run around, and I just stood there in awe. I don't know what it is. It's almost like it's a karmic attraction. It doesn't make sense. But he to me, I can stand in front of his paintings for hours. And of course, Raphael and Hans Holbein. I definitely, Jacques-Louis David, the neoclassic painters. That's what I just absolutely love.
It's wonderful to hear. I think a lot of people feel you can overload yourself. There's too many things to be involved in, too many things to be passionate about. I couldn't agree less. We also, we grew up with the same genre of music, everything from doo-wop to rhythm and blues to early rock and roll to Motown to metal to whatever. And yet in junior high school, because of one teacher who took us to the Old Met to see a performance of Aida, I fell in love with opera when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
And you had a similar experience, and it's just another thing that weaves its way through your life and the things that you love and, have to draw from and be inspired by.
Unfortunately, I never got to the Old Met, but I think I was a freshman in high school when there was a class trip to the Met. It was going to be a dress rehearsal of La Boheme.
Oh, boy.
And my friend said, Luciano Pavarotti is singing. And in my ignorance, I said, who's she? Yes. He was just apoplectic. What are you talking about? I'm a kid who plays baseball in Pearl River. What do I know about Luciano Pavarotti? And so we're sitting in the seats, and there's this huge curtain. All I knew was the Pearl River movie theater, nothing to this scale. The curtain opens up. That's it. What is this world I have never been exposed to before? And then Pavarotti starts singing, and he's, we're way up there,
it doesn't matter, the acoustics.
He was somebody who, the second he walked in, his aura, his energy took over the stage. the audience was in the palm of his hands. And ever since then, I am an opera nut. It is the most passionate expression of voice you can ever have.
When we come back from our break, I will tell you something that will make you ferociously jealous. When I was a supernumerary at the Metropolitan Opera, and Pavarotti and I performed on the same stage together. This is Peter Robbins with my special guest tonight, Linda Zimmermann. You're listening to Meanwhile Here on Earth on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, and we will be back in about 4 minutes. See you then.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
And we're back. So I always, I try to hesitate to inject too much of myself into these shows, but this is just too much fun not to. The Met at Lincoln Center is one of the grandest operas in the city, and I had two dear friends who were supernumeraries. They were the extras that would be on stage, non-singing extras. And in La Boheme, I think there were 150 of us, and in Aida, even more. And at Christmas time, it would be the one time during the year between Christmas and New Year's when they needed bodies on stage because so many people would go home to their families. And because of recommendations for these two friends, on two sets of separate occasions, I got to be a milling Paris bourgeoisie, walking around the city, arm in arm with a friend. Your instructions were to doff your hats to women. You're in full period costumes. Aida was more fun because you're in full body makeup. I was an Egyptian warrior. For 2 passes, you come in at the end of the line again to make the Egyptian army look twice as long. And then everything is Velcroed on. You tear it off as you run around backstage and leave your weapons at the side, and then pick up large trays of gold, and you come in at the very end as Jewish slaves. And Pavarotti was starring in that production, and I could hardly believe that people would simply go back to the green room and play chess or listen to the opera on, the in-house system. But I just hung out in the wings, and you could be 15 feet away from this man. And it was one of the great experiences of my entire life, as you will appreciate.
I am insanely jealous, and thank you for that story. That is what an experience.
It was the best.
Wow. Are we related somehow? I think you might be my brother from an alien mother or something.
Going to say, do a little more genealogical research and get back to me on that. The next picture in the lineup here is, well, here we are again in a non-standard situation. It looks like a laboratory, but you don't look like your run-of-the-mill scientist.
No, not on this day. This is Fisher Scientific. This is the Chemistry Research and Development Lab.
Of course it is.
And this is Dr. Tricia here. And it happens to be Halloween. So I take every opportunity to, be crazy. And but so did Dr. Tricia here. And yeah, so I could have sent you a picture of me in a lab coat, doing an experiment, but I thought this was much more fun. And I made that costume, by the way.
Of course you did. It's absolutely wonderful. And you have such lovely color in your cheeks, too.
Oh, yes. Well, it's that savage tan that I had.
And who are these wonderful gentlemen?
So years ago, I was lucky enough to get a collection of articles from a Civil War soldier who was also a journalist. And I edited all. He was a fabulous writer, just really pulled you in, engaged you. And I put them all together and edited them and put them in this book, Civil War Memories. And about, I don't know, at least 10, 12 years later, I get a call from this gentleman on the left, Ted Young, and he said, "You wrote a book about my great-great-grandfather."
Oh, my gosh.
And here I was talking to a descendant. This soldier was named Hamilton Busby. And the man on the right here, he's holding a box. He had happened to get some of Busby's personal letters in an auction.
Goodness.
So a few years ago, Ted came up from Atlanta, and Rod here was a little more local, but we got together to talk about Hamilton Busby and his writings. And to me, this just epitomizes the power of the written word.
Yes.
When you're good at something, it can still draw people together 100 years later, 1,000 years later. And many thanks to Hamilton Busby for being such an inspiring writer to bring me together, with these two wonderful men.
It also reminds me of the extraordinary experience of holding actual letters of this caliber and this era. As a kid, I would go to these huge stamp shows, and over in the corner, there'd always be guys with big boxes of old letters, and some of them very old, often $1 each, all in wonderful longhand. And that's where my money would go. I don't know what happened to them, but that feeling of you are holding history, and how wonderful for these two men to link up as well through your research in your book.
It was just, that's why I included this, because, we're not all making multi-million dollars like Stephen King. We do this because we love it.
Yeah.
And it's moments like that are just so treasured, that this is why we do what we do, for, the connections and bringing people together.
Yeah. And shifting gears again. What the hell are you doing?
Well, as part of my fascination for Native American culture, a couple of years ago, we went out near St. Louis to Cahokia, which has this ancient Indian mound site. There's like
Yes.
enormous pyramid there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a group of school children they were showing them the atl. Now, an atl was this little stick that's in my hand that a spear would go in, and it would help you throw the spear. So being the child that I am, I impatiently waited for these school children to get out of my way.
Really?
And I said, I know you find that hard to believe. But the woman there, it was a very hot day. She goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're closing up." I said, "Look, I've always wanted to try an atl." She says, "Okay, you give it a shot." So here I am, never having thrown an atl spear before. And as you see, I am in the position. I hurl it. And that bird on the far right, he went down. He went down. She was ecstatic. She said, I quote her, "Because of your hunting skills, we would have eaten well tonight and made needles from their bones." And I said, "Nobody's ever said that to me before." We would have eaten well and made needles from their bones.
You are a very wealthy woman to have had somebody say that to you. And in the interests of full disclosure here, no actual birds were killed, ladies and gentlemen.
No, metal target.
I love it. I've never even heard of it, but what a sensible, brilliant device to help one stay alive and, be the marksman that you can be. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So that was a thrill, and to do it on the field of Cahokia.
Right.
It was, yes.
Wow.
So one of these days there are actually atl championships. So I'm thinking someday I might buy myself an atl and start practicing.
I mean, there is, besides the rich income you make from your royalties on your books, bone needles are nothing to sneeze at. You hardly see them anywhere, and they are snapped up when they do appear.
Exactly. So, I'm missing my calling in life.
And when you wake up in the morning without any makeup and begin your day, I expect...
Yes.
You are something else again.
I have to be honest. This is who I am. I am fortunate. My friend, who's one of my podcast hosts, Mike Warden. He's a cop, but he's really into special effects makeup. And we go to Comic-Con, or we used to go to Comic-Con every year. Hopefully that will happen again.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to walk around. It's another. He goes, "How about I make you up as Valak, the demon nun from the Conjuring movies?" And I'm like, "Oh, I am so in." And I'm already ordering the yellow contact lenses. He got the nose there and the teeth.
Wow.
And I just had a blast. I mean, there are not too many people my age who dress up for Comic-Con. Let me tell you, there are not many people my age who go to Comic-Con.
I'm sure the church really has a very special place for you, and they will have another one after you pass away.
That's it.
In the meantime, may I just say you never looked lovelier. That's a very lovely outfit. And moving right along.
Here I am at Comic-Con. I could not go 10 feet without somebody wanting to take a picture. There's a little story here. This little boy you'd think would be terrified of me. No, runs over. I want a picture. The father is standing there ready to take the picture. And he's like, the father is saying, "Put your hands around his throat and pretend you're strangling him." I'm like, really? Yeah, he'll love it. So, that's I moved my hands in it, and the kid loved it. I had so much fun, and so many people laughed and took pictures. And to me, it was just the best day.
And you get the incredibly warm feeling of making a small child happy by bringing it to death.
Yes, traumatizing it for life. But the kid, it was the highlight of his day. He just loved it. So, I think I even made it to the Letterman show because they filmed me for doing this.
Wow.
But I did this for a couple of years, and I just, nobody knows who you are. You're anonymous, but you're in this situation with all these fans of all these bizarre things, and you're just having fun like a little kid. And I can't wait to do it again.
I've been to several Comic-Cons, but the smaller ones when they were only about 40,000 people, because for some years I worked for a manga and anime company that created a special company within their company called UFOcity.com, from which I ran a UFO information website. But I was surrounded by this madness and enjoyed being injected into this other world of popular culture.
It is another world.
And then, of course, you leave this identity behind and you return to your serious work as a writer.
Absolutely. Normalcy. Give me a moment. I had myself made up for the cover, for a photo shoot for the cover of my first zombie book. Perfect. I was like, well, I don't want somebody else to be the zombie trying to claw its way into the house.
No way.
So there I am. And of course, there's a story behind this. I had this done up near Kingston area.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, you can clean up now. I was like, hell no, I'm driving home like this. So I am driving on the thruway. I have my bloody dead arm hanging out the window. And there's a construction site where they're pausing everybody. They waved me by really fast, really fast. And the looks I got on the way home, and it was priceless.
I can only see those cars going off the road in upstate New York. It's wonderful. I think you also got the blood spatter pattern just right.
Pretty good. And my husband was driving a convertible back then, and he used to back up into the driveway, so I hid in the bushes. And as he pulled up, I came out, and the string of 4-letter words that came out of his mouth was fabulous. Fabulous. I was laughing so hard I fell to my knees. I couldn't even stand up. And he always says living with me is like living with all of the Marx Brothers. And I take that as a compliment.
Yeah. You couldn't even stand up and kill him. I mean,
I couldn't. I was laughing so hard.
Now, the next picture also made me feel a very deep sense of camaraderie with you, in that growing up when we did, I'm lucky enough to remember, especially in my Nana's kitchen in Queens, when she'd be cooking and we weren't listening to jazz, listening to the last of the golden age of the old radio plays, which I sometimes listen to at night. There are a number of websites where you can go to, and generally referred to as theater of the mind, and something that sadly so few people are in touch with these days. It's wonderful to have the world of movies, and nobody's a bigger movie maniac than I am, of the genre that you love the most, 20s, 30s, 40s films, but also, better films from more modern times, but making the pictures in your mind. And I guess in terms of our radio broadcast heritage, there is no radio play more famous than the Mercury Theater of the Airs, War of the Worlds, the version that was commissioned by Orson Welles and ran on October 30th, 1938, the night before Halloween, and changed American history, and also reverberated through the early years of the UFO cover-up, the concern for mass panic that in pockets around the United States, this radio play caused. Were you involved in a recreation of that, or just was this an homage to dress up and, move into the role of this brilliant genius whose work was crushed by Hollywood fairly early on, but Um, Orson Welles deserved the title of genius. A lot of people joke about him, and Paul Masson wine commercials, but
Oh, yes, yes.
the radio play is still a powerhouse, and anybody watching or listening should seek it out online and just, allow themselves to be open to it and imagine themselves in a simpler time. I still think it's one of the great masterpieces of broadcasting.
It is. And I loved listening to, we were probably listening to the same broadcasts. I loved the old radio dramas and plays, and particularly this. And I recall my father saying that when this was being broadcast, they all believed it. He was a kid, he grabbed his gun and ran outside.
Yeah.
And all the neighbors were out thinking it was really happening. So, when I came to decide I wanted to do some radio plays, of course, spoofs, my science friction theater.
Right.
Remembering those old radio plays. So this was like a publicity photo I did, because that is the classic image of Orson Welles there. So it's, kind of an homage and funny. And so my science friction theater combines my twisted love of storytelling, my science fiction titles like Atomic Robots from Mars and Colossal Killer Fleas from the Edge of Space. We are not professionals, as you can easily hear when you listen, but it's all the radio hosts from all the different shows at Hudson River Radio, which is in Stony Point. And each week or each episode, whatever the villain is, destroys Stony Point. And it's always the summer or spring of 1954. And it, burns down or fleas get it.
It's like The Simpsons. Nobody ages, and it's always set in Springfield, somewhere. I'm immediately reminded of my dear friend, Bud Hopkins, who passed, be 10 years this summer. Wow. But in his wonderful memoir, which is very appropriately called Art, Life, and Art, Life, and UFOs. Yeah. He talks about that time, I guess he was 7 or 8 years old. His bedroom wall was next to his parents' bedroom. Go to bed early. Mom was a worrywart because he had polio as a kid. And listening to that broadcast through the wall. And his dad was an authentic, tough guy, a World War I and World War II combat officer. Wow. And at the break, calling relatives to say they were heading for the cabin and bringing food and ammunition and, guns, and they could join them there. And then, of course, at the end of the show, he could hear his mother crying, his father angry that they had been fooled. And when you listen to it, and it's worth this extra minute's digression, you realize that there are commercials. And if the Martians were really destroying the Earth, there might not be commercials. Plus, it's several weeks or months being collapsed into a half an hour or so. And once again, the power of suggestion. New Yorkers rushing to the Hudson River to see Jersey in flames, certain telephone exchanges jamming up, heart attacks here and there, that kind of thing. I love that photo, and I think I should be quiet now, or I'll continue to go on.
So I don't tolerate ignorance. This is an ancestor of mine, Reverend Stone. Yes, he was a Puritan, one of the founding members of Hartford, Connecticut. He also directed a woman to be beaten until she confessed to being a witch, at which point they graciously hung her.
Well, I think that was very nice, rather than hanging her. I mean, burning her alive.
Burning her. Yes, they were kind enough to just hang her. So I found this witch's hat and grabbed a book, and just to let my ancestor know, yeah, we don't tolerate that kind of stuff. And I don't appreciate having you in my lineage.
Say, how proud you must be. Can you share the name of this Puritan human being here?
Reverend Stone. And yes. So
lovely.
I can't remember.
A man of the cloth, a religious person. That's good.
Yes. Those Puritans were so loving. And yeah. So yeah, anybody can look that up. This is at the old burial ground in Hartford area. His statue is there if you want to go and deride him. Feel free.
Yeah. Another interest that we share, and it's a passionate one, is the experience of being at ancient sites. Many of them, I mean, it's an oxymoron in a way, but prehistoric. History doesn't stop in a sense, but philosophically, some people take it to that point, here and abroad. Several years ago, I visited America's Stonehenge in New Hampshire, coming back from the Exeter UFO conference and festival with two dear colleagues, and was dumbstruck. It seemed to me to have nothing to do with Native American tradition or building. And at the same time, I had only seen things like it in the United Kingdom, up in the Orkney Islands and in Avebury, and in locations that had nothing to do with, modern history. What was it, the bug that bit you as far as beginning to be drawn to these kind of sites?
Well, I always, loved ancient sites when I was a kid. Yeah, this is not one of them. This is a totally different story.
Yeah.
But the Leonard Nimoy's
In Search of,
with America's Stonehenge, and within a year I was there. This was back the late 70s.
Yeah, that's right.
And that started my love. I didn't realize that you don't hear this in school, that all these stone sites exist. And I think a lot of them are Native American. The jury's out on that one. But certainly Native Americans had the skill and the knowledge to be able to build something like that.
Oh, yeah, on the standing stone structures as well. While we're here, of course, please share the story of this much more modern but eccentric location.
Yes, this is Barbados, of all places. When I was a kid reading all these scary books under the covers with a flashlight, the story that freaked me out the most was of the Chase burial vault on this exotic island of Barbados, which I never thought I would get to. And every time there was a lot of problem with the Chase family, and when they'd put one of these heavy lead coffins down in the vault, they would seal it with a lead seal. And the next time they'd open the vault, the coffins would be tossed around, upside down, turned up. Scared the hell out of me. This went on for years, and they finally had to empty the vault. Well, last January, pre-COVID, my husband and I went to Barbados, and it's one morning, he's in the shower. We're like, well, what are you going to do today? And I'm looking for things to do. And the Chase vault. And I'm screaming at him in the shower. The Chase vault is here. She's like, what's the matter? What did you do? And I said, no, we have to go to the cemetery because the Chase vault is here. And he comes out with soap on his head, and he's like, what are you talking about? I said, this is my greatest childhood fear. I have to
We will face it together.
We will face it together. And unfortunately, it was a Sunday with all the locals in their beautiful outfits, and I'm running up to go to the end. It was open, and I went down in it, scared the hell out of myself, got that photo. But that was, a bucket list item I never thought I would complete.
It's amazing the stuff that can come true, that you're projecting when you are that kid under the covers with the flashlight with the book.
Yes. And, to face it as an adult, I had great trepidation and my skin crawled, but I did it. So,
This is just a joyous photo here.
yes, my best friend and I getting married. We got married on the island of, I'm drawing a blank, at St. Thomas. Yeah, we've been to a bunch. Well, we honeymooned on St. John but I was never one who thought I would get married.
And in a dress, and a wedding dress at that.
I know this is so out of character, but that's how much I loved him. And he really wanted to get married. And after 10 years of asking me, I'm like, all right. I said, I'll only do it. I did not want a big wedding with an ice sculpture and, all. I was like, that is not me. I said, I want to get married on the beach.
In a Mets uniform.
In a Mets, I wish. But for his sake, I went through it. And it was nice. It was nice wearing a dress like that. I admit it. So I probably made my mother very happy somewhere that I finally dressed like a girl. And we got married. We got married right on the beach, barefoot. He's in a tuxedo. I'm in this dress, and we were barefoot right by the water's edge. So it was wonderful.
You're such a beautiful couple there, and I think we need to prepare the audience for the next photo of you with some of your guests following the ceremony. It's your usual traditional.
There it is. There happened to be a tour group from Italy.
Of course there was.
Italians love nothing more than a wedding. As we are going through the ceremony, they are in the periphery yelling all these things in Italian. And as soon as the ceremony was over, these sweaty, oil-covered, oil tanning covered, they come running in. We need a picture. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Course. So this turns out to be probably my favorite picture from our wedding. There we all are. I have no idea who any of them are. We never saw them again, but you can't make these things up.
It's the best. This is just joyous. I love this photo. There are people out there that are saying, gee, honey, if we had planned a little bit differently, we could have had a photo like that too.
That's right. Who wants these posed things, with the flower arch and, come on.
This is as good as it gets. And here's a photo of you with obviously another dear friend.
This is Zeus, the world's largest horse.
Whoa.
Yes. Years ago, I was visiting my brother up in New Hampshire, and I took a trip to this, I think it's called Castle in the Clouds. And I took a tour. It's a beautiful mansion up on the hill. And somebody mentioned, we have the world's largest horse here. And my initial reaction was, can I ride it? So they said, go up to the barn. And this guy here, I said, I'm here to ride Zeus. And he's like, nobody's ever done it before. He goes, nobody's had I don't know if I can say it. Nobody's had the
yes
to do this before. And I said, where do I, sign me up? And, it wasn't much of a ride. We went around in a circle.
Wow.
But look at the size and he was a gentle giant. He was just a sweetheart of an animal. And this is again, one of my favorite pictures. People don't know what they're missing. You have to try things, adventures,
to also be able to step forward and ask the question that nobody else will dare to ask, or figure it's just awkward, or I don't want to embarrass this person or myself, and who am I to blah, blah, blah. Way to go, girl.
Well, I have a quick story about asking questions. One of the things we did every year was, I don't know if they still have it, the Beethoven Festival at Avery Fisher Hall. And my friend and I went, and of course, again, I'm in college. I don't have the money for good seats. So we are in the last section of Avery Fisher, the nosebleed section. Yep. And I noticed during it was a series of concerts. And during the first concert, I noticed the man in front of me who we were tapping, we were doing the same gestures with our hands and our body motions. And I said, oh, this guy, he loves Beethoven the same way I do. That's all I noticed. The second concert, I said, gee, this guy has really bushy sideburns. And the third concert, I'm like, oh my God, that can't be Isaac Asimov.
Yep.
I'm afraid to ask. And finally, it's the last concert, the last minutes. And finally I said, are you Isaac Asimov? He says, yes, I am. And I handed him my program to sign. I have a Beethoven Festival thing with his signature. I said, I thought so a couple of, nights ago. I said, I was afraid to ask. And he looks at me and he said, never be afraid to ask.
Oh.
And I took that to heart.
That's wonderful.
I don't know what the hell he was doing up in he could have afforded.
That was my first question.
I have no idea. Maybe he didn't want to be bothered in the, the orchestra or something. And
you also know he'd hear just fine up there and have a bit of privacy.
Yes.
Now, you've written more than 30 books.
Mm-hmm.
By the time Asimov died, he had authored over 500 separate books on everything imaginable. He was a good friend of my literary agent, and I know stories about him through Bob, but talk about one of the great minds of the millennium.
Oh, unbelievable.
Wow, that doesn't surprise me. He loved Beethoven too. We, excuse the expression, change horses here. And
well played.
Again, with all of your proclivities, preoccupations, you were a research scientist. This is what you did. This is how you earned your living for years. Mm-hmm. And something drew you to an area of study and investigation that, if there is an antithesis for most establishment scientists, it would be UFOs or ghosts. The ridicule factor, although it's diminishing now in the world of UFO studies, I think it's still probably good and strong relative to disembodied spirits and the like. Mm-hmm. What was it? It might have just been childhood interest in, one more wonderful spooky thing. But was there something in particular that made you feel, I'm going to do this, I'm going to research this and start to write about it, because for whatever reasons I'm taking it seriously? Can you elucidate?
Yeah, it found me. I was when the company was sold and I was, out of work. I said, I want to start writing, and I started writing about local history and science. And I was doing a series of lectures for my home county, Rockland County, for its bicentennial. And I'm in the middle of a history lecture, and somebody raises a hand, and do you know any ghost stories? I'm like, really? This is a history lecture. So I told the one ghost story I knew. I knew one. Okay, the childhood, the mysterious woman on the side of the road that the hitchhiker picks up. So it's a day or two later, I get a call from the next library I'm speaking at, and she's like whispering, "Are you the ghost lady?" I'm like, "No, I'm the one giving the history lectures. I hear you tell ghost stories."
Oh my.
I said, "No, I told you, tell more ghost stories. I think people will like it." And I was kind of indignant. How dare you? I'm a historian here and scientist. And I found I loved it. I love telling ghosts. That people would be at the edge of their seats. And then I don't know how this word spread. People would literally mail me their house keys and say, "We're going on vacation for a week. We think our house is haunted. Could you go and see if you find anything?" Like, how did this happen? It just happened. And I started once I started personally investigating and trying to do it scientifically, and, spooky things would happen. Oh, I was absolutely hooked. And yeah, 25 years of that now, and the places I've been, and, the investigations, museums and prisons, and, tons of private homes. And yeah, I recognize it is not a science, but that doesn't mean you can't approach the paranormal rationally and scientifically. And when you can't explain it away as an electromagnetic field or a trick of the light, you have to, in all honesty, say it's something beyond the normal. It is paranormal.
Linda, can you give us an example over the years that you've been conducting these investigations of an experience that you personally had that challenged all of your rational thinking, and whatever, your thoughts were about this phenomenon, besides that it was fun and interesting and there's something to it, that really brought it home in no uncertain terms to you?
Yes, there was a case at the Columns Museum, which is in Milford, Pennsylvania. And my friend Mike, the police officer, we were given the keys and the passcode to the museum. And the second we walk in, I kind of made a joke. I said, wow, that was a paranormal pie in the face. I just felt the energy of this woman so intensely. And I could describe what she looked like. I'm not a psychic, but you go into a situation like this enough, you become somewhat sensitive to it. I just knew everything about her. She was in this terrible agony of grief. I just could describe everything about her. And at one point in the night, I hear this rustling of skirts, the old long skirts swishing. And I jump up and Mike's like, what's the matter? I said, there's something she wants me to find. She knows who I am. I just kept, which made no sense. No sense. She knows who I am. She wants to prove it. Okay, so he runs after me and we end up in an office. And I said, oh, great. What is she going to do? Fax me? I was like, this is. So he said, well, look at all those file cabinets. Maybe there's something in there. I said, I could spend 10 years going through all these file cabinets. But he goes, go ahead, try. So I pull out a folder. I get on the floor. I'm with my flashlight. And I'm just going through this thing. And there is an article about Linda Zimmermann, the ghost investigator. And I just froze. There had been an article written about me. The museum clipped it, put it in their file, put it in this. I happened to open that file drawer, pull out that particular file out of 10,000 files, and there's an article about me. And I'm like, see, she knows who I am. And that's what she wanted to prove. And the implications of all that, she knew what was there. She knew who I was. I mean, it's mind boggling. And please try to tell me that's all coincidence, because that is a 1 in a trillion episode. And it turns out we know who this woman is now. Do you know I'm sure you know the philosophy of pragmatism. This man named Peirce was the one who was the proponent of that. She was Madame Peirce. May have been a gypsy back in Europe, known for reading tarot cards, being psychic. Her husband died and she lived for many years and never got out of her mourning clothes, was in incredible grief the rest of her life. She never lived in the building, but when she died, all of her belongings, including her mourning clothes, were brought to the museum. And I think that's how she got there and is there today. So if I were to write this as a piece of fiction, people would say, oh, please, that's crazy. But I have it on tape. I have it on video. I have a witness.
Having conducted so many investigations in this area, and again, it's not an exact science. It's not a science.
No.
But have you come to feel that there are something approaching or actually scientific principles that govern it? What I mean by that is water boils at 212 degrees centigrade. When I was in my 20s, thinking very little positive about people that describe themselves as channelers. My go-to position was, right, you talk in a funny voice, you roll your eyes back in your head, you make believe you're a 5,000-year-old disembodied spirit, you tell somebody something you think they want to know, wide parameter there, you get it basically right, you get a check and go home. Edgar Cayce turned me around on that. Call it the transmigration of souls, as governable as, any physical law that we simply are not in touch with. Do you have any scientific feelings or theories or ideas regarding these disembodied beings that, in popular culture are generally called ghosts, and why some hang around, some don't, and what it is about to you in an explainable way as opposed to just mystical?
Yeah. Well, I think the more we learn about the nature of consciousness and its many ways it expresses itself, I think we will come to be able to understand the ghost world, whatever we call it. I find that the majority of the cases are people who have regrets and are locked emotionally to a location or an item. And I've just done too many cases where the evidence I've gotten can then be corroborated by historical fact. There is a science to it. We need to appreciate that, stop ridiculing it, and can we quantify it? Can we put something down on paper? This is probably what's happening. But I very much believe in, we die and the soul moves on to something else. And so, I explain it to people as it's like you go to the airport, but you forget to get on the plane to take that journey. You're stuck in the airport. And, for whatever reason, you need to find a way to move on. So it's really been an honor and a privilege to do this kind of investigation, because the people you come into contact with, what you learn about the people who have passed, it's every case is different and it's an amazing story. And one thing I did not expect is that just by writing and talking about these cases, I'd say at least a third of the haunted activity stops. But if you can grasp that they're here to get your attention to tell their story, then you look into it and you respectfully tell their story. Maybe that's enough of a release.
This image that you provided, tell me about this.
This is not a happy story. This is a house in Pomona, New York, and I got a call from this woman, quite desperate. They were seeing a dark, menacing figure. Glasses were being thrown across the room. Things were being smashed. They'd wake up in the middle of the night, and this thing would be leaning over them. It was just very, very negative. So I went to investigate. It was one of these places you pull in the driveway and you're like, oh, this is not Casper, the friendly ghost. This is not good. And it's, I did my filming in meters and all that. And it's just she and I in the house. And as I'm sitting on this low chair diagonally across from this corner of this living room, I am putting away my gear, and I see there's this light, faint light coming through the living room curtains. I see something blocking the light, moving from right to left. So I just say to her, could a truck have gone by a street light? Something. She goes, no, we don't have any street lights. We're set way back. She said the light is on the outside of the house, and the only way something could block it is if it's in the room with you. So I grabbed my infrared camera and snapped a few photos, and this ominous looking dark hunched shadow was in the film, this was digital, but I sent the raw image to several photographers. I said, please tell me you can explain this. And they said, no, we can't. And when I showed it to the homeowner, she said, that's what we've been seeing, this hunched over figure. And the man who built the house, he was a bad character who, let's just say, victimized women. Oh. And I always say death does not improve one's personality, and he's still trying to do that as well. Wow. In death.
We have one other figure, one other image of you.
There I am. That is the bank of file cabinets. You can
for
see
gosh sakes, okay.
To the corner. Yeah. And that is the one file I pulled out. And, Mike says, you look like a burglar. We could turn on the lights and sit at the desk, but I was so focused to find that. And I think I have a picture of the article as well. There. Yes, there it is. Linda Zimmermann, spelled incorrectly, paranormal expert, blah, blah, blah. So I found the one article in all of those files that had my name in it.
That's off the charts. That's worth noting.
Yes, it is.
To my earlier question, though, about ancient, quote unquote, prehistoric structures, what first drew your attention and your fascination to exploring them actively?
Yeah, that was I had mentioned the In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy. They went to America's Stonehenge, and I went there and was blown away by it. Yeah. And started discovering the sites, not as elaborate, but similar sites in the Hudson Valley. And, this is one of my favorite. This is one of the enigmatic stone chambers, which historians swear are root cellars, even though they're not cellars. They have no doors. They have no ventilation. They're usually full of water. Yeah. Not a good place to store your potatoes.
Not at all.
This is winter solstice sunrise. And this is the one time of year when the sunlight comes directly through the door and gives you that nice image on the back wall. Yeah. And there are many of these with solstice and equinox alignments.
You can roam around for hours, and we know that some of these structures were dismantled, destroyed by, in many cases, early American settlers like your
Reverend
like
Stone.
The great Reverend Stone, yes, who had a tiny problem with certain things.
Yes. Oh, I did not send you this photo, but this looks like Ireland to me.
Yeah.
That is magnificent. The tombs, probably, I'm sure there's some sort of astronomical alignment of sunlight coming in there.
Now, this is doubly interesting to me because to the best of my knowledge, memory, I inserted nothing in this photo display and only loaded photos that I got from you so that...
Not my photo.
Something
looks a little like LaGrange.
Damn.
That is not my photo either.
How about this one?
Nope. No, that's Newgrange. I have not been there. Not my photo.
Well then, This is absolutely fascinating.
Nope, that is, I know that is where the sunlight comes in, Newgrange over the doorway. Not my photo. No. Still not my photo. They're beautiful.
This looks like Avebury to me, where I've been a number of times. But this is, of course, not your photo.
No.
And
that is my photo.
Yay! Well, I wonder if some disembodied spirit decided to include these in the exhibit. We will
Newgrange and Orkney are at the top of my bucket list for sites to go the second COVID is lifted.
Orkney, I spent a good part of a summer there many years ago.
Oh, my God.
And I'll share my photos with you at another time, but I could go back there easily.
I do have a quick story about the last one. That's not my photo either.
Yeah, please.
This is at Lake Tirati in Harriman State Park in New
Ah,
York, not far from me. And this is a hilltop with all sorts of large stones, glacial erratics that somebody at some point lined up to solstice and equinox
geez.
alignments. And this is a massive pointed rock that I thought for sure would point to winter solstice sunset.
Hmm.
And we hiked up there and I quickly realized it was pointing too far to the west. But you can see at the back of the stone, there's a carved out a little bowl
Yeah.
that the setting sun set into so magnificently. I get
Perfect.
goosebumps just
Yeah.
thinking of that moment.
It's obviously it's been such fun to do this conversation interview with you, and believe it or not, we're in our last 5 minutes or so, and we haven't even touched upon a subject very important to me and certainly important to you. The triangles craft that came in over Westchester and the Hudson Valley in 83, 84 caused a sensation in the world of UFO studies. You've written about them to a good degree. And have you ever, you mentioned 2 dates in the notes that you sent me. Were they UFO sightings or?
Yes. 88, I saw the enormous V-shaped craft with the huge rounded lights on them silently gliding over a field and was dumbstruck. I was with a friend, and you just, I don't care who says they're military aircraft. You just knew you were looking at something very, very special.
Yeah.
And then craft like this were seen over the Indian Point nuclear reactor.
Yes.
My cousin saw this
I have
over.
it. One of my mentors was a tough, no-nonsense New York City police detective who had good friends who were on location, cops doing security in the area, come in over the Indian Point facility, and that was the moment when the great New York State blackout happened.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that happening. Okay. A reference librarian was waiting for her husband at the bus stop and saw this triangular shaped craft. I said, was it the size of a football field? She goes, no, it was the size of a football stadium. And a circle opened up. She didn't see a door sliding. She just saw this opening and this red light ball. I'm sure you've heard this many times. This red light drops out. She could see up into it, and she described it like the side of an apartment building with these lighted balconies reaching up into this craft. And that's about the only one I know who has seen up into one of these vehicles.
What an account.
Mm-hmm.
The last image that you sent is, for me, the most compelling, the most memorable, and the one that will certainly linger with me as well as I'm sure many of our viewers.
Yes. On several nights in March of 1983, 2 consecutive Thursdays, craft such as this would be over Route 84 in eastern New York near the Connecticut border. And people would, you do not want to stop your car on Route 84, but people were stopping their cars, getting out. And this is the home. This is what I try to drive home with people. This was not, I saw a light in the sky. These were enormous craft, very low, silent, hovering over people for as long as 20 minutes.
Exactly. And some of whom, because this was the beginning of the golden age of video cams. And I attended an almost all-day seminar at one of the big high schools up in your area in 84, where one local person after another farmer, housewife, teacher, cop, whatever, got up on the stage of that high school, absolutely packed. Bud Hopkins was there, Alan Hynek was there, Whitley Strieber was there 4 years before he published Communion, as well as everybody in the area talking about, among other things, animal reaction, something we didn't get to and which I've experienced personally, very haunting. I'm so glad somebody has written a book about specifically that aspect of this area of study. I think we're going to have you back on at a certain time, Linda, and we'll do our best to have not quite as much fun and do some more serious work.
Oh, I can't guarantee that.
Yeah, I can't either, really. Forget about what I just said. I want people to know that, again, you can go to Amazon or any bookseller, 30 plus different book titles, whatever your interests are, UFOs and the paranormal. Linda's written about it. Her website is GoToZim, GOTOZIM.com. And the website for her podcasts, all three of them, is HudsonRiverRadio.com. Linda, it has been a pleasure having you on the show. I hope that our paths will cross in real life here in New York State a little later this year when things called conferences get up and running again.
What a concept, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming up with this absolutely brilliant idea for this concept to find out who we are and what motivates us. And thank you so much. I have had the best time.
It's my pleasure, my friend. Next week's guests on the show will be UFO abductee experiencers, Deb Jordan Cabell, one of my favorite people who has been a guest earlier on this show, and another dear person in my life, abductee experiencer William Konkolsky, who happens to be, among other things, the director of Michigan MUFON. Why they're coming on and together is they both have important new books that will be published in the next few weeks, and they will be co-hosting with me as I interview both of them with each one of them on each other's books. And I've read those two book manuscripts, and they are terrific. If you've enjoyed this show, please tell your friends. We will see you next time, same station. Stay well, stand up for what you believe in, and be kind to each other. Over and out.